Hello, everybody. You are listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, giving me a piece of your time. I appreciate you. All of the different places and ways that you can find us and listen to us: Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Search Hot News Talk Radio. Interact with us. You reply, we reply. You know, I scream, you scream. We all scream for ice cream. If you want to hear from us, go to our Facebook page, go to our YouTube channel, and, you know, tell us what's on your mind. We want to hear it. We want to hear it. You can also go to hotnewstalkradio.com if you'd like to listen to us live 24/7, and you can have this show as well as David Tulis show, Binary with Russell Stroud, Mike Gallagher, Sean Hannity. You've got a number of shows. You've got options all over. All over. You have no excuses. And, of course, if you'd like to hear Hot News Talk Radio on your mobile device, then get the TuneIn Radio app. It's free on your mobile device. Apple Store, Google Play Store, it doesn't matter. Download it. It's really fast and really easy. Give us a follow, press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. So we've got a lot to talk about today. A lot of people are concerned about one Robert Nkemdiche from Ole Miss would be talent-wise a very high draft pick. According to Todd McShay of ESPN, would be a very high draft pick, but he's got, you know, the off the field issues, and he said in one of his combine interviews that, you know, he took plays off. His 40 time was slower than I think a lot of people thought. So you're looking at a situation where a guy who could be, according to scouts, Bucky Brooks, Todd McShay, smart guys, smarter than me. You've got this thing where you've got guys saying, like, here's a guy that could be a top 5 talent if it weren't for all the issues surrounding him falling in the draft. And he could fall as far as the second round is what a lot of people are saying. I don't think he falls that far. Doesn't seem that likely that a guy with that level of talent, you wouldn't take a flyer on him at least late in the first, especially if that was a position of need for you. But at the same time, I wonder about guys just falling randomly in the draft, okay? When it comes to attitude stuff, that will scare a lot of people away, because I can't imagine a situation where Johnny Manziel actually gets taken, where he gets taken in the draft. I know a lot of people had concerns about his play style, but like the real reason Johnny fell in the draft is because he's a head case. Like, he just doesn't have his life together, and you don't want to try and give millions of dollars to that guy and not know whether or not he's going to be able to come through for you. That's really what you're coming down to. You're putting an investment into 19, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and basically asking them to go out there and be your franchise winners for you. You know, it's a lot of pressure, especially when that person hasn't shown a propensity for making good decisions. And here's the thing that makes it very difficult to gauge is that you're saying to yourself, this person is making terrible decisions as a 20-year-old. But who among us hasn't made terrible decisions as a 20-year-old? Like 20-year-old men specifically make bad decisions, okay? It's not to keep quoting that Geico commercial, but it's like, it's what you do. It's what you do. Okay, the Geico ads where it's just like, oh, if you're a mom, you call it the wrong time. That's what you do. You know, you're a 20-year-old guy, you make terrible decisions. It's what you do. Okay, most young guys, you give them millions of dollars, they're not going to behave properly. The people who have the right crowds around them, the right voices in their ears growing up, those are the guys that are going to be ultimately successful in the league. But we're talking about 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. They're not making good decisions. Let's not sit here and pretend like any of us was making good decisions. For me, for instance, I will use myself as an example. I wasn't wild and crazy at 20. 18, 19, 20, I didn't do anything. I didn't even really go to parties. I didn't do any of that stuff. And I still found a way to not make great decisions in my 20s. Either whether it's not driving particularly carefully or whatever the case may be. There's a reason why insurance companies, up until you're 23, 24 years old, as a guy, you get really high insurance prices. They don't trust 20-year-olds to make good decisions in cars, which everybody drives a car. If you can't trust somebody to do, a particular group of people to do something that everybody does, that ought to tell you something about that group of people. Young men. Because your brain is still growing as a young man until you're about 25. I'm about to turn 26 later this month. That's crazy to me. Your brain is not fully developed until you're in your 20s as a guy. It's not the same for women. Women get smarter faster, which could explain actually why they live longer, because the average is just lower for guys doing stupid stuff and getting themselves in trouble or getting themselves in jail or just taking unnecessary risks. You look at movies. You look at movies like The Hangover, or even more serious movies. We watched the movie Juice the other day, which was a pretty decent movie. And what is it? It's a bunch of guys, learning to grow up and not making great decisions as they learn to grow up. Because you don't have necessarily that influence. The guys are cutting school and everything else. There's a reason why a lot of these stories are about guys. The things that guys, it's not just that guys are interested in debauchery and making poor decisions. It's that just guys typically do. Just a fact. Usually, more often than not, that's just what we do. We just make awful decisions. And so it's very relatable. You're not going to see too many movies that are like The Hangover with an entire cast of women. And part of it is that Hollywood doesn't cast women necessarily in a very diverse variety of roles. But the other part of it is women just don't do stuff like that frequently. Not at the same rate that guys do. We do stupid stuff and we do it at such an unusually high clip, it makes no sense. And here you are, an NFL franchise, about to hand millions upon millions of dollars, hand over fist, to a 20-year-old guy that most insurance companies, and we're not talking about high-end insurance companies, we're talking about Geico, State Farm, Nationwide. They're not giving you those things. They're not giving you very low, reasonable insurance rates. We're talking about a company where to offer you insurance, you have to pay them. And they're like, no, you're a 20-year-old guy. You're a 21-year-old guy. We don't trust you in a car. Okay? You're paying $250 a month in insurance or whatever it is. It's just insanity. It's insane because you just don't make very good decisions. And it's weird that there's not this particular emphasis on surrounding guys with that influence, with people who are smart. And I understand that part of it is your family does have to do that. The NFL symposium, the rookie symposium, I'm glad that they added that to the league so that at least guys can't sit there and go, well, nobody ever told me. But your whole life changes when you get money. All of a sudden, people start to look at you different. They start to treat you differently. They start to come up to you and see if they can get a little bit of that cut, see if they can be in your posse. Maybe they weren't your friend before, and all of a sudden they're your friend. You don't know who your friends are any longer. This is the reason why guys will stick with people who they grew up with. That the people who roll in your crew in the leagues, baseball, football, basketball, it doesn't matter. People who roll in your crew in the leagues tend to be your close friends. They tend to be your posse. They tend to be the guys around you because you can't trust people once you get money. you can't trust the new faces that start showing up once you get money, because are they there for you or are they there for the money? And that's a tough thing to ask a 20-year-old to go through, even if 20-year-old dudes were smart, which most of them aren't. Okay? Every now and then you get Andrew Luck. Every now and then you get Russell Wilson. Okay? Most guys, no. We the reason why we've got so many issues here, I think, at the University of Tennessee that we're going through, with just guys just doing awful stuff, is I don't necessarily think the culture of that locker room was is stone-fisted enough to say, you know what, you do something wrong, you're done. Okay? South Carolina, definitely you had the old ball coach. And what did he always say? I mean, if you put your hands on a woman, you're done. You might be able to transfer out and play somewhere else, but you're not playing here. Okay, you want to have that just zero tolerance mentality. You want to have that because, hey, you've got to enforce something, because you can't expect these guys to make good decisions on their own. And it's not racial. it's all age. Okay, like even Peyton Manning, you've got a situation where, okay, there's a case, you're not sure exactly who's right. Is it the trainer? Is it Manning? But certainly Peyton Manning put himself in a position where this case could even happen. He put himself in a position where we don't know what's the truth or not. And if he had just been smarter, he wouldn't have been in this situation. But how could you expect him to be smarter? He's a 19-year-old guy. 19-year-old guys are typically not smart. We think we know everything. We do not. Okay? And I'm sure you've got many parents out there. You can relate to this. Okay? I know my mom can relate to this. I was a smart aleck. I was a know-it-all at 18 and 19. I wasn't rude or anything like that, but I definitely thought I knew what was happening in life. And like 6 years later, like 6 years removed from 20, I'm looking back and going, I didn't know anything. Okay? I didn't have a clue. And so you're saying about a guy like Robert Nkemdiche, like why is all of this, like why is he falling in the draft so suddenly? Because I mean, we had the opposite conversation with Carson Wentz, where he's a guy that comes out of nowhere. He's playing in 1AA football, in basically Division II football in North Dakota, and he just comes out of nowhere. He's impressing people, and he'll probably be the second player taken in the draft. This is the reverse of that. Nkemdiche's the reverse of that. How do you end up with a guy that's got all the talent in the world and he's fallen out of the first round? Okay, you started this past season and you're looking at it and you're going, oh, this is a guy that could be taken in the top 5. And a lot of scouts believe that he was a top 5 talent. And how do you know which guy's crazy is going to be too crazy for you? Like, there's some teams that'll take a flyer on a guy. You see Aqib Talib in Denver being successful. Look over to New England. Aqib Talib was in New England being successful as well. But Aqib Talib was a head case when he was in Tampa Bay. So you've got teams with strong locker room cultures that are willing to go, okay, we'll put up with this guy. That's where we're looking at Nkemdiche going. We're looking at him going to possibly a Seattle or a New England or wherever, a team that's going to be able to take a flyer on a guy. And then, in that kind of way, the rich get richer because you've got teams that already have a ton of talent, just adding more talent because they're like, you know what? We're so good and we're so structured, we can add the occasional head case. We're actually allowed to do that. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We're covering the NFL draft. Like every day, we're going to talk about something draft related. We get closer and closer to the NFL draft, which is one of my favorite events on the sporting calendar. I really enjoy the non-sports sporting events. The NBA draft, the NFL draft, National Signing Day. I like those days. There's just so much unnecessary drama that goes around it. And it's weird, okay? Like, I understand that I am the guy that doesn't like wild, aimless speculation. I think it's ridiculous and silly. but I think it's that same silliness that draws me to it. I think it's fun. I'm considering doing a mock draft. I'm considering doing it. Not because I'm some kind of expert, but just more for the fun of it. But I look at the mock drafts, and they're a ton of work for some sheet of paper you're going to end up ripping up the next day. They're not quite the NCAA tournament bracket, because that's no work at all. Okay, I'm going to try and get my girlfriend to do an NCAA bracket, and I'm going to get Russell to do one, because they're not sports fans. In fact, I'd love to see what a Mr. Tulis NCAA bracket looks like. Someone's got to be with me on that one. I'd like to see what a Mr. Tulis NCAA bracket looks like, because there's always this thing where the person who thinks that they know the most in the room ends up with the worst bracket. You know, you fill out the bracket pool, the office bracket pool, and then we all lose to Sue in accounting. Sue doesn't watch any sports. Sue doesn't care. But you know what? Sue doesn't like spiders, so she's not going to take the Richmond Spiders. Next thing you know, Sue's got all of the Final Four teams corrected. Your bracket is busted in the Elite Eight. But that's how this works. And so now the shoe is on the other foot. I'm in the minority at this radio station in terms of sports fandom. Can the sports fans catch a break on this one? But it doesn't take any effort to fill out an NCAA bracket. That's my point. So even though you'll end up being horrifyingly wrong, it takes almost no effort to do it if you really don't care. Like, if you really don't think about it. I'll overthink it. I'll fill out my bracket. I'll erase it. I'll fill out another one. I'll have 3 or 4 brackets that'll all be wrong by the time we reach the end. But at the same time, it doesn't take any effort to actually do it. So, I mean, you know, where's the harm? A mock draft will hurt your feelings because you filled it out. Like, I had one year where I was like, the first 15 picks, I was just on the money, and I felt really good about myself. I felt super smart, and then I didn't get anything else right after that. You know, the Patriots traded away their picks. They got more picks later in the draft, and you're just like, why? Like, why do I do this? Why do I fill this thing out and try and figure out who's going to take which guy? You don't know, and once one guy doesn't go where you expect him to go, like the year the Vikings drafted Christian Ponder, like once that happens, then your whole thing is just screwed up, because you're just like, okay, well, I thought Christian Ponder was a late first rounder. Here the Vikings are taking him at 12 and ruining my day. So you just end up in a situation where all of this drama is swirling around draft day. And so we're going to cover it every day here at Hot News Talk Radio, because it's the best of both worlds. Like, the NFL is cool, but college football is just bigger here. And also, in a lot of ways, it's much more fun, but you end up with this transference period where guys are going between, and you want to see which school produces the most talent. You want to see which school produces the best talent, who long-term lasts. Because, like, here's the thing. Alabama is winning more national titles in the last decade than anybody, and the knock on them is that they still can't get a quarterback that succeeds at the next level. You haven't had a starting quarterback win a game since Joe Namath. Okay, I mean, McCarron was able to win one with the Bengals this year, I think, as a backup, but you haven't had a good quarterback in the league since Namath. Okay, and you're going to hold that over everybody's head. Tennessee fan gets to go, look, we've got Manning. You know, that means something. You know, it just does. Or you get to be wide receiver you or running back you, which Alabama definitely is. They're a running back factory. You play running back on that team and in that system, you're gonna be good. And I don't know why. Possibly because you just understand how to run behind a gigantic offensive line already the moment you get to the league. Everybody's not Trent Richardson, okay? Everybody's not Trent Richardson. He's the exception to the rule with absolute certainty. He is the exception to the rule. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. The Kimdichie thing really, though, just gets to me, because I'm looking at a guy that's that talented, and maybe if I don't have a strong locker room culture, I still take that guy. I don't know. I just have a hard time believing like a guy with that much talent falls away and you can't do anything about it. to the point where if he falls into the second round, here's the thing, the Titans may not have to trade away that number 1 overall pick after all. The Titans could go Laramie Tunsil number 1, and then if they're lucky in the second round, they could get Kindichi. How bonkers would that be? They would get Kindichi and Tunsil, which to me, those are 2 top 5 talent guys, and you wouldn't have had to go back for more picks. I don't see how Kindichi falls to the second, though. I don't think he falls that far, but it's a possibility. It's something that you actually have to think about, because if he does fall that far, you snatch that guy up. There's no way. You're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me, and we'll be talking about more sports next.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm going to Carter Shooting Supply.
Carter Shooting Supply.
That's right, Carter Shooting Supply. They're having a great sale on all of their guns right now, and it's name brands like Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Springfield, their AR-15s. They've got the hottest gun in the land right now, the Sky 9mm. Man, it comes in all the cool colors. If you're an Alabama fan, they've got crimson. If you're a big orange fan, they've got an orange one. You know, all the women are loving the pink one in Tiffany blue. Plus, it has a lifetime warranty replacement. If the gun is stolen, all you need is your police report or receipt, and they'll replace it free. It has a 60-day full money-back guarantee. That's Carter Shooting Supply. They're in Harrison right there at 6210 Highway 58.
Are they online?
Yes, they are. It's cartershootingsupply.com, or give them a call, 423-344-1099. Now, this sale's not going to last too long, so you need to hurry up and get there. And they do have a great indoor shooting facility. You can get your Tennessee handgun carry permit also. That's Carter Shooting Supply, 423-344-1099. You need a place for your party or maybe a wedding reception for 100 or even more. Maybe you'd like to host a small trade show for your business, and you need a very affordable venue. Are you looking for a place for your birthday gala or services to start up a church? Look no further than the Hidden Gem in Hickson. It's an overlooked, newly appointed reception hall right here in Hickson, Tennessee. Big space, small price. That's right, big space, small price. Call Mr. Chu and ask for a tour. 316-7388. That's 423-316-7388. He'll tell you a lot more about the venue. Rent this venue today. Just call 423-316-7388 and ask for Mr. Chu.
Any leftover showers will gradually diminish through the nighttime. Lots of mountain fog, overnight lows into the upper 30s. For your Friday, a drier day, still some leftover clouds, but high temperatures still will be on the cool side, lower 50s. More sunshine, though, for the weekend, and highs back into the 60s. This forecast is brought to you by Hamilton Medical Center in Dalton. Proud to be named #1 by CareChex for medical excellence and overall hospital care in the Northwest Georgia and Chattanooga region. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. A 71-year-old former city employee, Orlandis Metcalf, was killed in a drive-by shooting overnight. His wife was witness to the crime. She called 911. The police have not found the assailant. It happened at the 2600 block of Taylor Street. There's a report of a drive-by shooting with other witnesses as well. Police did find the victim inside of his home. According to a release, the shots were fired from a vehicle driving past the victim's home. The CPD is asking anyone with any information to call 423-698-2525. The investigation is still ongoing. More info will be released when it's available. And there's an update now on a story out of Appleton with a 3-year-old boy who was shot in the head. It appears now that he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The medical examiner believes that he was playing with a handgun inside of a car and shot himself accidentally. And a student at Central High School yesterday was taken into custody for bringing a BB gun onto school campus. The 16-year-old was taken into custody and taken to the Hamilton County Juvenile Detention Facility for a charge of possessing a weapon on school property. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Do you all know what time it is? Do you know what time it is about to be? I'm sure you don't know. It is very soon going to be upon us. Jay Asks, our very popular segment that comes and goes as it pleases, more or less. We're going to have the NFL Draft Edition. Is it way soon before the NFL Draft? Yes, but we're going to have multiple NFL Draft editions of this because look, the NFL Draft is one of those things we take for granted on a fairly regular basis. And then when it comes around, we basically assume that it's a straightforward thing. We don't know all the rules to the NFL Draft. If you didn't grow up watching the NFL Draft, there is so much about the draft that can be confusing. You're not a sports fan initially. You will get the hang of it, but it doesn't come naturally. It's not the most obvious thing. Okay, there's a bunch of guys. Some guys get drafted. Some guys don't. There's a bunch of mock drafts. Just people make up draft scenarios. That is obviously a huge staple in sports. But in this particular case, like it's one of those things where we usually know who the top 5 are going to be. And then as we start to go down the draft board, it could be anybody's guess. Some teams go on need. Some owners just fall in love with a guy and then just draft him. And maybe your team didn't need that. Maybe, you were the old Al Davis Raiders, and Al Davis would just look at a dude and go, he's fast. And that's all that it took to draft a guy. You just speed. Okay. Oh, he's got a strong arm. Then you get stuck with Jamarcus Russell. Just happens. So we're going to go through our first of a few NFL Draft editions of Jay Asks. Before we jump into anything too deep, let's talk about platforms, shall we? Let's talk about platforms. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Hot News Talk Radio. Look, if you look us up, we're the first thing that comes up, and we'd love to hear from you. I go through the comment section every night just for you guys, just so we can find something to talk about, and I'll discuss whatever. We're constantly updating. We've got news stories for you. Anything that your heart desires. And if you'd like to listen to us, you can go to youtube.com, search Hot News Talk Radio. You can listen to us live. We stream all of our shows on YouTube live. You get to see what we look like in studio. And you can go back through our back catalog and listen to some of our classic episodes. We never, ever, ever call them old. And of course, hotnewstalkradio.com. We stream 24/7. And you can get the same stream if you have the TuneIn Radio app for your mobile device. It's absolutely free. You have zero excuses, none excuses for not having the TuneIn Radio app. You can get it in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store for your mobile device. Search Hot News Talk Radio, give us a follow, press play, and you will have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. I want to talk about Tennessee basketball, especially women's Tennessee basketball, but it's hard. It's hard because it's frustrating to watch because Diamond Shields, she's the best player on the team. It's not even close. I don't know if she's the best player in the SEC, but she might be. She's that good. She's got a sweet jumper. I mean, like just sick, and a crossover that doesn't make any sense for how much space that she's able to get. I mean, it's impressive, but the team is under a little bit of fire here because the offense doesn't run through her. And that seems bizarre. Like if you have a best player, like an obvious best player, would you not want that ball in the player's hands like 60 to 70% of the time? Because I would. I would absolutely want that. That if I had a Diamond Shields on my team, I am a Longhorns fan. We don't need to talk about Texas women's basketball. It's not a pretty sight. But if you did have a Diamond Shields on your team, like, would you not want the ball in her hands more often than not? She's like your Kobe, okay? She's your Steph Curry. She's your best player by a very large margin. Wouldn't you want your best playmaker to have the ball? And it just seems weird when you watch them play. They'll run every offensive set for everybody but her. And it just boggles my mind. Like, I look at them play, and it's frustrating. Like, you just want to bang your head against the wall because she's so talented and the team is good, but she definitely has to carry them. And it's weird because you get this great player. She transfers from North Carolina. You convince her to transfer from North Carolina, which is a school with a very good basketball history in its own right. And I don't want Tennessee to start missing tournaments. And not just not missing tournaments. Like, I don't want to see Tennessee get into a position where they're not making it to the Elite Eight, Final Four fairly regularly, because we've seen it happen in women's college basketball. It's very, very easy to be irrelevant like that. Overnight, you can just not matter. Okay? And once you start to not matter in women's college basketball, there are no recruits coming to you. It goes the other way just as easily. It's very easy to just matter overnight. Okay? Baylor gets Brittany Griner, and all of a sudden, they roll. And you're just like, Baylor who? They just started winning basketball games because they've got, 7-foot woman in the middle of the paint. You can do whatever you want. But with this, you've got Pat Summitt. She built such a legacy at Tennessee. And now that she's gone, you run the risk of losing that magic. You run the risk of losing the legacy and the identity of great basketball, especially on the women's side, when you start missing tournaments. Okay, and we don't have that expectation for this team. We do for the men's team because they've got to rebuild. They've got to come back from a lot of things. Okay, this is only their first year with Rick Barnes, so we expect them to get better as time goes on. But certainly, the identity of this school as a good basketball playing school, you lose that. And it's strange to me because the answer to all of your problem is Diamond Shields. Just give her the ball. She is so good and so dynamic. She can get whatever shot she wants to on the floor because she's that fast. Her handles are that good. Her shot is that consistent. In fact, even though she's a pretty good shooter, I'd almost prefer her to just go straight to the basket every time. Because like once she starts getting that momentum and she's on her way to the paint, who can actually stop her? There aren't many people who can actually stop her once she starts rolling to the basket. Like, it's over. And I just watch them play, and you're just like, I don't understand what they're doing out there. And maybe we'll see some changes. We start to roll into the tournament here, get closer to SEC tournament play. But boy, I'll tell you what, it's rough. That is a hard one to watch, and you're trying to look at this school that, like, they're going to make the tournament. But how far do they go playing like this? I don't know how far they go. I wouldn't imagine very far, just because there's another school that plays like this. If you look at a school like UConn, and they've got Elena Deladon, and what do they do with her? Like, they just keep giving her the rock. Like, they just keep giving her the ball regardless of what defense they're running. It doesn't matter if they're going man-to-man, if they're going zone. Doesn't matter which kind of zone. Doesn't matter. You just give her the ball and let her create and then get that movement to get other people open on the team. And I feel like Tennessee should adopt that same approach, because what currently is happening is not actually working. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, giving me just a little sliver of your time. You know that I appreciate you. I want to jump back to the NFL draft here a little bit as we get closer to Jay Asks, our famous segment. I almost want to say world famous segment, but I think that may be going just a little bit too far. at this particular moment, but we'll get there. Oh, don't worry. We're fighting the good fight. But I want to jump back to the NFL draft before we get to the Jay Asks of the NFL draft, which is this. Because I asked the question on Monday, how does a guy like Carson Wentz happen? And this isn't to say anything poor about Carson Wentz, because I've heard him speak. I've watched some of his game tape, and I'm like, okay, this guy is good. I'm not saying he's not good, and he sounds intelligent and very nice. He seems like a good person, and I actually look forward to watching him on John Gruden's QB camp whenever that starts up on ESPN, because those are always interesting, and you kind of get a closer look at like guys' personalities. And Carson Wentz strikes me as a guy that's going to have an interesting interview. He's very witty and quick, and on top of things when it comes to talking to people, especially publicly, which is not something that you would expect from a guy that went to the size school that he went to. Went to a very small school. Like, his comparison is Joe Flacco, just because they both have strong arms and they both went to tiny schools and they both got overlooked a lot. But you look at Joe Flacco doesn't want to talk to you, to be completely honest. Like, Joe Flacco looks bored being in the same room with you and not football. He doesn't want to talk to you. Carson Wentz, he's very outgoing. And so, like, you're looking at a situation where he'll probably be taken second overall by the Browns. But going back just a few months at the beginning of this college football season, did anybody on earth have Carson Wentz going second anywhere? I don't know if I had Carson Wentz going second round, much less second overall in the draft. That is incredible to me. And yet he comes out of nowhere, and I don't know how we get here, because I think hype is something that I think that it's an intangible. It's not something that you can quantify. You can't boil it down to an essential and define it as something specific. But once someone starts building hype, we just roll with it. Carson Wentz started off in the Senior Bowl. He played pretty well in the Senior Bowl. 7 of 10 completed passes. He looked good throwing the ball down the field. He was on target. And then we roll into the NFL Combine. The Combine, he's doing things that other quarterbacks aren't doing. He's throwing receivers open. He's nailing the deep ball. He's looking pretty good. His interviews, from what everyone said, look good. And we get to the point from where Carson Wentz is a guy that's like, okay, he's a pretty good bargain bin quarterback that you could get in the draft. We went from that being Carson Wentz to Carson Wentz is in the same stratosphere with Andrew Luck. And that came out of nowhere to me. And I don't know how that happens. Like, I don't know what causes that to happen. There's plenty of precedent for it. You see it happen, and sometimes the end result, it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. But there's plenty of precedent for that. I just want to know how. Like, I can't imagine how. It doesn't make any sense to me. But that is the opposite of Robert Kindici, who is a guy who you see him, he's a top 5 talent. A lot of scouts had him very high, and then he gets involved in some off-the-field stuff. He says some weird stuff in his interview at the Combine, and he's got the opposite of what Carson Wentz has got. He's got the negative hype. It just starts rolling in the opposite direction, and you can't stop it once it starts. We're talking about a guy that's a top 5 talent in this draft falling out to the second round, maybe, which would just be a shame if you could just pass up on all that talent. I don't think that Pete Carroll lets that slide past him. I know that that's Todd McShay's opinion, really, but like once he said it, like I can't go, oh yeah, no, that's not right. He's the draft expert. Todd McShay was talking about it, and I was like, no, that makes sense. Pete Carroll is the guy that will just take a flyer on people who others consider crazy and make winners out of them. He does that. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose, and we're coming up to our famous segment, our great segment, Jay Asks, where Jay asks questions about sports, and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. Jay, are you ready? I know, because here's the thing. Like, before I came on the air, we have this book of logic puzzles, and that is what we do. We solve logic puzzles like we're amateur detectives, and I don't know. It's great. It's great for my self-esteem personally. So Jay's been working hard on this logic puzzle, but
I low-key want to tell your folks about not the whole thing, just what it is. Like the questions.
Okay, well,
next time.
It's we have to start from the beginning. We have to start earlier.
No, I don't care about solving it. I just want to
All right, but like to explain what everything is.
I'm gonna get this. You will not be. Anyways,
not be defeated by a mere logic
no,
puzzle.
because now we're about to talk about more things that you're good at. Okay, so tell me a little bit about football. I have some questions. Let's just jump into it.
Okay.
When we talk about football, there's this thing called a safety, right?
Yes.
But my problem is safety is both a person and a thing in football, and that makes no sense.
Yes.
Please explain for the people like I.
Okay, so a safety has two definitions in football. One is the person. He is that is his position on the field. He is the defensive player that is the most far back. So when you see a deep pass and it's broken up, it's usually a safety that's breaking it up. It's basically the guy that's the last stand between a touchdown and a deep pass. So you're my receiver, I'm the quarterback, I throw it deep. There's a guy back there that's waiting to try and stop you from catching that pass. He is the safety.
Okay.
So, and then the
which makes sense.
Yes. And then the safety, which is I'm trying to score. You have two end zones on the field. I'm trying to score in your end zone. I'm trying to move the ball up the field. You're trying to stop me from scoring in yours. However, if you tackle me in mine and I have the ball, that is a safety. That is what's called a safety, and you
mean?
Automatically get 2 points and the ball. It's a turnover.
So somehow, wouldn't that work in my favor if I like run the ball back to your?
If you have the ball and score in mine, that's a touchdown. But if I have the ball and you hit me in my end zone, that's a safety. Which is good for you, bad for me. Because now I lose the ball and you get 2 free points.
If we're moving up or down the field, however that works, which is my next question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to score in my end zone or the end zone that I have to go to. And it's like the 4th down and I just go for it. Don't punt or whatever. It's a turnover now, right? So now you are now in the end zone that I still have to score in.
What do you mean?
You have the ball. You need to now go all the way up the other side of the field, right? So it would turn over on that line, or if it turns over on that line, then you get a certain amount of yards. Like, how would that work?
Explain that again.
So you have the 2 places, the 2 end zones.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm trying to score in an end zone. If I push the ball all the way up to like the 5-yard, within 5 yards of my end zone, let's say, or less.
Okay.
And it's my 4th down. Most people are going to punt or something on the 4th down. But let's say I just go for it. And it's a down.
Right.
And so the ball changes hands.
Right.
So now you are coming the opposite direction on the field.
Correct.
Do you change hands and stay there? Or do you
stay right there.
So in theory.
So now I have to go all the length of the field. You have to go.
Right. But hear me out. Like in theory, at that point, then a person or a team could get a safety play. Because in theory, I could tackle your quarterback and push you into my end zone or intercept it.
You get it right there. So if
right, no, yes, maybe.
If for some reason you go for it on 4th down, 5 yards from the end zone, and don't get it, or even if you kick it off to me and you tackle me on the 1-yard line, and I'm stuck right there,
yes.
you could get a safety. That
so
depends.
It's a yes.
Yes, that depends on what I do. Like now you're trying to be careful. You're trying to throw the ball away. All those things to try and make sure you don't. But yeah, you're aware of where you are in the field and know, okay, we've got a chance for safety here. Yeah, you could.
Okay, so yes, awesome. All right. And then I guess another thing that I've been super confused about is this uphill, downhill. Please explain, because isn't it a flat field? Like I don't.
This one confused me for years growing up as well. So being a downhill runner or an uphill runner, really, it's just a terminology to say that your team runs the ball brutally in a straight line. That's it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to try that one more time.
It doesn't mean that you're literally running uphill, or it doesn't mean that you're literally running downhill. It just means that if you're considered a downhill runner, it just means that you run in a very straight line with a lot of speed and a lot of strength. That's it. I mean, that's really all it means. It doesn't mean that you're.
So how do you so that's it, just downhill runner. There's no uphill.
I mean, I suppose someone could call you an uphill runner as an insult, but you want to be.
You mean that you would run very
slowly
with a crooked?
I guess. I've never seen anyone characterize it that. I mean, I know I have accidentally said that.
No, it's not a thing.
No.
Okay. Let's just stick with the things.
I'm trying to, but I might be overthinking it, and that's probably what it is.
Okay. Basketball, then you have up and down the court. How does that work? Is that based on the team and which direction they're going?
Basically, it's whichever one.
Or is it set?
That you say first. If you say one team's going up, then the other team's coming down. It's not set. It's not a.
Like if I'm playing at like the Staples Center.
Okay.
Would that does it change based on what arena we're playing in?
Nope.
Versus the American Airlines arena or something?
Nope. It really doesn't. If what you'll find is the team that has the ball is usually considered the team that has the ball first is usually considered the team that's going up the court.
But is that for the whole game, or does it change at halftime when they change the half sides, or does that change with possession?
It does change with possession, because if I turn the ball over and now you have the ball and now you're coming back, you're usually considered to be coming back down court. And then, of course, if I win the tip off in the first quarter, you get the ball in the second quarter. And I guess that would be why you would call that person the team that's going up the court. It's not a set.
The ball formally changes baskets halfway through.
From quarter to quarter.
Oh, so okay. So 4 times or 3 times 4 times it would change.
Yep. Win the opening tip. And so you've already, I guess, decided which direction.
So you're going to basket A in the tip.
Mm-hmm.
Second quarter, you're going to basket B.
Yep.
Third quarter, you're going back to basket A.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth quarter, you're going to basket B.
Yep.
I did not even know that.
Mm-hmm.
So in high school and college sports, it only changes at the halftime.
Correct.
Ah. See, I'm getting things.
Yes, you are.
I'm getting smart.
This is what this segment is for. Just education.
I'm about to be the most sports knowledgeable. No, okay.
And the listener too. Everybody. Look, we're dropping knowledge all over the place. You just got to pick it up.
So, okay. I've always had a question, men's sports versus women's sports.
Okay. And we are running out of time, but let's try it.
Maybe not because it might be a lot.
Let's try for it. We've got a minute. We'll see what we can do.
Baseball versus softball. I know that there's a difference in the balls, but I've always wondered about that. Is there a difference in women's basketball, versus men's basketball?
The 3-point line's shorter in women's basketball.
Okay.
And the ball's smaller.
So there is a big difference, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we have time to get into it.
we might have to. We might have to do that another day. But yeah, we can go through the differences of that. Men are typically bigger. I think that's the rationale there.
Well, if you look at Steph Curry's shot, I wonder even if that is a sufficient.
Yeah, and he's an anomaly, though.
But I feel like we're going to start seeing more Steph Currys in the world because this is what we're pushing our athletes to be able to do.
And most definitely. And it looks cooler. Kids growing up right now, these generation of kids watching Steph Curry play don't have to be 7 feet tall. You don't have to be LeBron sized. They're going to be the next best players.
Just like his generation grew up watching the Jordans and.
Absolutely. You've been listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you, Jay, for joining us there for Jay Asks. We're covering the NFL draft every day. Every Wednesday, Sam Blevins joins us to do NASCAR. And, of course, you can listen to NASCAR. We are the exclusive home of NASCAR here in Chattanooga. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you in 24 hours.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hi, I'm Sabrina with Sabrina Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an